Good morning, everybody. We got to toast the coffee. Happy Tuesday. T is still sleeping. Puppy was sick last night, so she was up with a sick puppy. Never a good thing. So, yesterday we talked about study, find new ideas, find out what's out there, figure out new ways to do things. What do you do once you've got that ability, once you have that information? Well, you always remind yourself that knowledge isn't power, knowledge is only potential power. Just because you know the information doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. Just because you're intelligent doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. Even if you're the expert in the information, doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. You have to utilize the information. And by that we mean massive action. Knowledge plus massive action equals success. Gary Vaynerchuk probably has been the best proponent of this of recent, especially with the millennial generation, of simply showing that you can be successful just by overpowering everything else. Massive action is a cure-all when it comes to success. If you're stuck, if you are not sure what to do something, do anything. Now, obviously, if you find a great approach, you're going to get there much quicker. If you're able to mirror somebody who has already achieved the same result, you're going to get there a lot quicker. But the point is, here's where we get stuck. We get stuck in two ways. Number one, we get stuck preparing to do something, and we never actually start doing it. We continue to research, we continue to go to school, we continue to watch videos, we continue to read books, but we don't ever act upon the goal. That's why we always say, whenever you set a goal, never leave the sight of a goal without taking some action. Get moving in a direction, because that's going to start momentum. The second way that we get stuck is we keep doing the same thing. So the only way that you have to curtail massive action or adapt it is you got to have that sensory acuity. That's why we have the third piece of our 4 steps to achieving any outcome. Are you getting closer or are you getting further away? So the only downside to massive action is if you keep taking the same steps expecting a different result. That's the only negative. Otherwise, the only way to get where you're going is to get going there, is to get taking the action towards that outcome and that result. And the reason that we say massive is because the more you act, the more you're going to find out what works and what doesn't, and the quicker you're going to get there. Plus, it creates huge amounts of momentum. If you do something significant in terms of taking steps towards the achievement of your goal, it's going to launch you in that particular direction. Again, the fast when you start a diet, because it so massively changes your approach and it so massively interrupts your pattern, it makes it much easier to take a large step towards achieving that outcome and getting results. That scale's going to drop tremendously when you do a fast. Now, some of that weight's going to come back. Some of it's water, some of it's not long term, but you've still done so much to achieve that outcome that it just creates a large amount of momentum. Now, there's another way to do that, and that's to make the massive action little steps at a time on a daily basis, but still commit that it's going to become a significant part of your life. So like, let's say reading. We all need to read more. Stephen King reads for 5 to 6 hours a day. Well, you think, well, how the heck does he do that? Well, he does it because he reads all the time when there is downtime. How much time do we spend on our phones looking at social media? How much time do we spend on our phones looking at whatever? And I'm guilty of that. A lot of us are guilty of that. Readers spend that time reading. So when they're waiting in line for something, when they're sitting and waiting at an office, back when we used to do those things, anytime that they have downtime, the book is open and they're reading it. If you want to read 50 books in the next 12 months, the way to start that, the massive action to start that is to first of all write down your list, right? Here's the books that I want to read. Commit and publicly commit. Get leverage. Tell other people that you're going to do this. And then start right away and commit to a small amount and then build. So like let's say it's a half an hour a day. If all you do is read a half an hour a day, well, think about it in terms of like you want to walk 100 miles. Well, if you say, I want to walk 100 miles and you get up and you're going to do it in one day, well, that's a big chunk. That's going to be harder to do. But if you say, I'm going to walk 3.5 miles every morning, let's just say it's 3 miles every morning, all right? So that'll take you less than an hour, typically, to walk 3 miles in the morning, depending upon your physical situation. But you should be able to do that in an hour. So you're setting aside an hour of your time. At the end of the week, you'll have 21 miles. At the end of 4.3 weeks, you're at almost 100. You're certainly at over 80, depending upon how you're doing. And all you did was commit an hour a day. Well, the same is true with reading books. If you just commit to a half an hour a day of reading books, you should be able to read 10 pages in a half an hour, maybe 20. Well, before you know it, let's say you can read 20 pages in a half an hour. Before you know it, 7 days have gone by, and now you're at 140 pages. Well, before you know it, a couple of weeks have gone by and you've read a couple of books. That's all that it takes in order to start really making massive outcomes towards your goal. So, yesterday our rule was to study, and to study like a kid, to look at things like a kid does. And that's really true with the achievement of any goal that we're looking at, is to appreciate it like a child. In other words, I'm going to achieve this goal no matter what it takes for me to do it. Kids don't see no. No just whizzes on by. Kids get up and decide this is going to happen, and they do everything in the world to make it happen. And how do they do that? They do it with massive action. They do it with their energy. I mean, think about when your kid wanted an ice cream cone or wanted some type of treat, and you were trying to say no, and they would fling their body all over the place and come on and come on and come on and come on and come on. That is a key to success. They knew their outcome. They took massive action. They kept changing their approach until they got the result that they wanted. Why do we not do that as adults? Because we're afraid. Because if it doesn't work out, we don't want people to see us fail, and so we back off. And as we get older, we do that even more and more and more. We fear that failure even more and more and more. So we continue to retract and not want to move forward. One of the scariest things that can happen to you is if you achieve all of your goals. So I had this happen in around 2000. Started doing Tony Robbins events in 1996, attended UPW in 96, 98, and 2000, did Date with Destiny in 2000, and I achieved my results. I achieved the physical outcomes that I wanted with my body. I achieved work results that I was looking for, my goals, and I built this house. This was my dream house. I wanted to live out on this street, and I wanted to live in this house, and I did it. And then what did I do? Nothing. I didn't set any new goals. I hung out in the house, and what happened? Well, if you're not growing, you're dying. And a couple of years later, I found myself not making more money, but making less money, overweight, and not happy because I didn't set any goals. I retracted. I had pulled away from all of that stuff because now I was trying to just hang on to what I had. Rather than growing towards a new result, I decided I'm just gonna hang on to this. I'm happy right here, so I'm just gonna stay right here. Well, if you're trying to hang on to what you got, you're gonna lose it. Weeds are automatic. Gravity is automatic. Those things are automatic. If you want a beautiful garden, you can't just sit there and do nothing and hope that you end up with a beautiful garden. It takes action. It takes massive action, or the weeds are going to come. So as you move forward for the rest of your life, whatever it is that you're moving towards, it needs to have massive action towards that outcome. But the massive action doesn't have to be a burden. The massive action can be like a kid. It can be fun. The entire journey can be a great, thrilling, amazing time. And the people that are successful their entire lives, that's how they approach it. There was a wonderful man that lived in my area who passed away suddenly. I think he was 74. And he was an incredibly successful businessman, just an extraordinarily successful businessman, brilliant mind. Don Morris was his name. He was a great mentor to me and a great friend. And when he died, everybody was shocked at how old he was. It was like, wow, I didn't know that he was 74. But when you stop and thought about it, you were like, well, yeah, I guess he'd been around for a long time. The reason it surprised everybody is because Don was always going to the next thing. For Don, success wasn't about the money, and it wasn't about necessarily the achievement. It was about what he needed to become in order to do that and how many people he could take along the ride. He loved to bring other people along on the journey and watch them be successful and mentor them into success along with his businesses. And he was brilliant at it. So when he passed away, everybody looked around and went, he had so much more to do. This guy had grown business after business after business. He had made tons of money. He had donated incredible amounts of money. He had helped hundreds of people, and yet we all knew he had lots more to do. He was still growing. He wasn't trying to just hang on to the things that he had. He was always going to the next thing. He had built this incredible electrical business, which is still going strong. They did all the electrical work at the new NFL stadium in Las Vegas. But then he got into horses and became a world-known Arabian horse trainer and breeder. You know, who thought of that? I mean, I'm going to go from running an electrical company to I'm going to go breed horses. But that's what he got into, and so that's what he became. That's the next thing that he became an expert at. For the rest of your life, if you want true happiness, happiness is progress. And progress comes from taking action every day towards the achievement of an outcome. And that's not a burden. It's exciting. It's a wonderful opportunity for you. It's a wonderful opportunity to help others. And it's an opportunity to give back to everybody else that you surround. It's a blessing. It's not a curse. So remember today and for every day from now on, take massive action towards the achievement of your goals. It's the cure-all to any barrier that you're running into. It'll help you break through. It'll help you achieve them that much quicker. And it's the way in order to be truly happy, because as we're growing and achieving those goals, that's when we feel the best about ourselves. Have a great day, everybody. Let's take care of each other out there. See you tomorrow.